Hello, folks. Bill and Brian here with Energy Rogue, and it's Wednesday, and it's noon. Hopefully, you're getting something to eat. Hopefully not. I don't know. But what we're going to do today, we're going to talk a little bit about markets, and we're talking maybe even a little bit about the weather. Brian, let's roll the logo.
Did you say weather? Did you say weather?
I said weather.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Whether or not you heard it, I don't know.
One of the most unpredictable, challenging topics, and that's part of the reason we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Weather's harder than energy markets as far as predicting.
They're both hard.
Yeah, and that's why we do it, because if it was easy, we wouldn't want to do it.
Yep.
You don't do easy things. So we're good. It's good to be back. Last week we were presenting at the Natural Gas Energy Association of Oklahoma's annual conference, and we had a real good time there talking about gas processing and economics around that. But today we're back, and what are we going to talk about today, Brian?
So we are going to talk about two topics. One is WTI and its potential path to 100. The other is going to be natural gas and a potential path to $2. And we have disparate opinions around that. And there is always going to come opinions. But what we do is we try and focus on data and translating data to information to strategy to action. So our platform, energyrogue.com, is $89 a month. I'm going to show you I'm going to show you charts that are from there, anything that is in that ecosystem, plus calls with Bill and myself to talk about your problems and what you might be facing in the markets is available to our members. So capacity pending, because we have been growing and growing. So, and thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. So what we're going to talk about is WTI on a potential path to 100 and natural gas on a potential path to $2, and kind of the merits for and against. So we try and look at things objectively and remove emotion. And I definitely have particular biases on both of those. And,
Brian, no emotion, because there's no crying in baseball. Okay.
No crying in baseball. There's no crying in baseball. But let's go ahead and take a look. So what has happened, and part of the reason that we wanted to pick this topic for this week is a lot of our customers really focus on natural gas and crude oil and natural gas liquids and refined products. But we're going to focus today on natural gas and crude oil. Natural gas tumbled down from nearly $2.80 down to $2.50. So that's a big move. And meanwhile, crude has gone from 81 to 85.94 and then kind of stalling out around here. And we'll talk a little bit about why. So a little bit of housekeeping. Anybody that's watching, if you post a comment on LinkedIn and YouTube, we should be able to see it and respond to it. So if you have any questions, drop in, say hi, like, comment, share, all that stuff really helps. And thank you for watching. So which one should we tackle first, Bill?
Let's go with natural gas, because it's got that really cool upward trend that we get excited about on both ends of it, and in the middle we're always just bored.
So let's take a look at this. This is on TradingView. This is not within the platform Energy Rogue, but I'll show you kind of the fundamentals and what we're taking a look at. We're not financial advisors. All the disclaimers are down below, but this is our opinions and our opinions only. If you use your own research, your own mind, and what your own perspective is. But what we can see is this range bound from 287 to 250 approximately. And with periods above, we did poke above $3, and $3 was our target. We are expecting, I'm not going to say I'm expecting a reemergence of $3. I'm expecting that we will be going back up in this channel. This $2.52 level that I've identified, that seems to show pretty solid support. There's some lines that are a little bit below that. I'm starting off with the technicals, and then we'll get into the fundamentals, and we're going to talk natural gas storage. We are going to save European storage and weather for another webcast that we're going to do with our friends, Prestige Weather. And if you want to link down below, you can learn a little bit more about Prestige Weather. They only charge $5 a month, and we work with them on a deeper level to get into cooling degree days, heating degree days. They do weather consulting. So we're going to focus on U.S. weather, and we're going to focus on U.S. storage and what that might do to price. We're currently around 254. I would personally, from a technical view only, and we'll get into the fundamental view, I would expect to climb back to this 261.8 is our level. But there is a gap up here. 270 is going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. So once we restabilize around this 270 level, I see it extending up. Again, not financial advisors. Any commentary on that before we dive into kind of fundamentals?
I think it's not going to not just go past. I think it's going to pass 270. We're looking at what you're seeing right here in the prompt contract is the October contract. I think as the October contract moves toward roll off, 25th of this month, something like that, we're going to see it get strong. I think it's just going to do that, and I think that's because some of the fundamentals behind it. But I think also it's going to try to move toward the top of the channel there as well. So I could see us easily getting a 275 all the way up to even I could even see it $3 on the October contract before it expires.
Yep.
Now when we roll it to the November contract, I think it's already pretty close to $3 anyway. So and I think part of that's going to be is that it'll be interesting to see the storage numbers in the next couple of weeks. Because I think the storage our demand's a little bit higher.
Well, some early polls and something that we've discovered, we're going to discuss storage, and we're going to actually project with you live what our end of season is and kind of the toggle points that we could see that make it more full or less full. Half full. I'm a half full kind of guy. So
you know how that goes. One says optimist is half full, pessimist is it's half empty, and engineer says the glass is designed wrong. So
all right, so let's take a look at fundamentals. Again, this is our platform, Energy Rogue. It's $89 a month. Anybody that wants to get serious on energy analysis for supply, demand, imports, exports, storage, stocks for natural gas, crude oil, heating oil, refined products, natural gas liquids processing. So we cover a lot, and there's a lot there. We're not going to go through that, but let's take a look at this. Is a chart that we have developed with our members because we accept feedback from our members and kind of develop with. So if you take a look at this is supply and demand and the implied storage change on a per day basis. So this is last week's numbers. So we had an 8.9, but I do want to point out something. 8.9 BCF a day. Let's do this real quick. Equals 8.9 times 7 is 62 BCF. So when we're back on this, 62 BCF, that is last week's numbers. We posted a 34. or 34. Was it 34 or 33?
32, actually.
Oh, 32.
32.7, I think. Yeah.
Either way, there's a large discrepancy on what is going in the ground versus supply and demand. So and it's not because there's some super secret conspiracy. Bill, I know you want to talk about it. Please don't talk about it. Are you
I
going to
won't.
talk about it?
No, I'm not. No, I will refuse to mention the lizard people who live in the Mizzou.
There it is. Okay. So anyhow, the numbers aren't reconciling between storage and supply and demand numbers. And that is a reconciliation that you kind of need to pick a horse. If you're trying to, again, we're talking about natural gas. We've had a couple people join
And I
shortly.
think a lot of it is timing. You have to realize that we're expecting everybody to be on a perfect time and in sync with one another. And so you're going to have some misses for sure. Even to
Right.
the point that once a well's completed, producers have sometimes as much as 6 months before they even report to production. So production can be underreported or overreported. You can they're changing them, going back and advise them. So it's not an exact science, I guess is what I'm going to say. This is not an exact math. Well,
Yep.
and that's why we call it implied storage, is because when everything doesn't add up, storage is sort of is the catch-all. And then when
Yep.
you actually see an actual storage number, well, now you have to realize that some of that's off. So if you're looking for something that's down to the exact BCF per day, you will live a very frustrated life.
Yes.
And so what we try to do is get it there and make sure everything is moving in a direction in which we think that it should be. And like I said, the implied storage we talked to were 60, turned out to be 30. That seems like a lot. Yeah, it's about 5 BCF a day, maybe 5 BCF a day. And when you're talking about as much as when you're talking about 100 BCF, that's a 5% plus or minus. I realize you day traders, that seems huge, but in the physical world, it's not as big as you might think.
Well, and the reason that this is getting important is because what we've been talking about all year with our members and even some on our live streams is the fact that we've dropped rigs. And as we've dropped rigs, there is going to be a supply response. We are going to see supply drop. The only question is when. We haven't seen it yet. We are projecting that this month and next month we start to see it with a stronger follow through with November. That means in September and October are key months for production. And we're going to get into a storage model here, and we're going to dynamically build this out with you. So our target is to try and do this 30 minutes. We're probably going to be doing it 45, I'd say, because we probably have another 15 minutes to talk about natural gas before we get to crude oil. But let's take a look at supply. One of the supply sides, all our charts on Rogue Edge are interactive, downloadable. If you're curious, book a meeting with us. You can also click this button. It sends us an email. It comes directly to Bill and myself. So feel free to reach out to us. And we have a private Discord channel, weekly reports, videos, and 150 interactive downloadable charts for you. But let's take a look at supply. Supply is 102.8 BCF a day. That is surprising me. Does that surprise you, Bill?
If you ask if I believe it, I'm a little skeptical of it. It doesn't surprise me that that's what the number is. What surprises me is that we're continuing to do that with the rigs and the things that we're seeing down. But it could be just a matter of delayed completions. And so that's why I'm sort of, if it was, I can believe 102, I can believe 98. And so that's
let's go ahead and add a quick visual. So what we've been looking at is all year rigs have been declining, and they really started accelerating in July.
Right.
So that takes about a 60 to 90-day effect.
Right.
Now, it's not a direct line because you do have some ducks. You
Right.
have things, slower completions than normal. So these are all broad estimates. It's not an exact science because everybody has different cash flows in how they manage this position.
Exactly. But the thing that's not is undeniable is you take a look at that July to August rig count.
We are going to have a supply response, and it's going to be big.
Yes.
If you look in June, we had 755 rigs. We are down to 687. So from the beginning of the year, we're roughly down 100 rigs. So
And that gas
this,
is a little bit different because the Marcellus, when they come on, they can't produce at full volume because they don't have the infrastructure.
yep,
So they don't have as strong a decline, but other places just have a solid decline. And so
yep.
that's going to sort of mess with your numbers a little bit. But the problem is that in a general sense, we're going to have a less supply come on.
Yeah, and we can already see this in the monthly numbers. If we take a look, let me actually expand this out a
By the
little.
way, if I could tell you each day how much it was going down by how much every day, I would not be on here. I would be dialing in from my island in the Caribbean.
So this is declines for the United States shale regions, which is roughly 3.3 BCF a day. And that means that we have to bring on 3.3 BCF a day every single month, or else we will decline. So if new wells were brought online, that's what we would lose. So we would go from 102.8 to 99 in a blink of an eye. Fortunately, that's not going to happen because we have new production. Now, what I want to pay attention to, we're not going to dive into this, is this number of new production has already been dropping off before the rig count was dropping. So that's going to be an important aspect. But let's go ahead and take a look at that. That's supply. We're going to cover supply, and let's take a look at demand.
And for our LinkedIn user, the ducks have been have dropped, but interesting enough, in one basin they actually have increased. But as ducks come on, it really depends on how can I say this? All ducks are not created equal. So ducks in the Permian will have less effect on natural gas as opposed to ducks in the Marcellus.
Yep, and we actually track all the ducks by region, so you can take a look at Eagleford and Bakken, and let's take a quick look at Permian. And for the LinkedIn user, it doesn't tell us who you are, so thank you for commenting and thanks for joining. But most of the Permian ducts during COVID have been brought online. So we're not really building a big inventory. As a matter of fact, we've only had a inventory change of 10 in June. And that's the first time that we actually built an inventory of ducks. So if you want to learn more, you can reach out to us directly. But production and consumption. But let's go ahead and talk storage.
Let's talk storage.
Let's talk storage because this is a rest of the season model, and it's just a simplistic, overly simplistic model. But let's take a look at each one of these. So this model, and these are plug numbers that Bill and I dropped in right before the live stream. And right now we're at 3.74 TCF. That's what we're looking at end of season. So, if these variables are correct, but let's talk about it.
Remember, end of season is March 31st. So we're saying that when you come out of storage, March 31st,
October,
they're about sometimes
October 31st.
October 31st. They're
for
about
injections.
I don't even know what day today is. This science fiction is not helping.
No.
So what we're saying is that can you could have injections in November.
Yeah.
But they won't go much more than a week.
Yep. Well, the
So
South had withdrawals over the last, or not over the last, but several times this summer because the heat has been so intense. So
right.
it's kind of a general sentiment of what it is. But let's take a look at each one of these because these variables on a daily basis matter. So, for instance, we took a look at demand over 2022, 21, 20, 2019, and 2018. So let's test this. Let's take a look at what is the low there? 72? Is that, am I reading that
Yes,
right? All right.
72 is low.
So if we had demand, and that includes power, industrial, residential, commercial,
Yeah,
if
total
we
gas
had
demand.
if we had 72 BCF, which is kind of the low point of September, October averages, weekly is going to vary, but these are monthly averages. If you take a look at those monthly averages, we're at 3.8 TCF. This is what the bears have in a thesis. And hey, Vernon, thank you for stopping in. And let's see, what is your opinion that we will begin to see the storage numbers begin to trend lower? Yes,
I agree with
actually,
you, Bernie.
Vernon, we're 100% on board. So thank you for watching, commenting, and we our personal biases is that we agree with you. So if we take a look at September, October, and have a bearish demand, um, then we're sitting at 3.8. But let's take the other side of the coin. 76, we're at 3.6. So a lot of people that are talking about storage filling, I mean, this is a big swing. I would actually probably settle in on a 74 and probably a 72 here because thanks to our friends at Prestige Weather, there is a link down below. You can go to their website. It's $5 a month. And I think if I go with 74, 72, would you agree or disagree with that number?
I think I'm agreeing with it. I'm more concerned on not on demand as much as Canadian imports because the way their weather was setting up, it could get colder in Canada, and we could see that import number go down.
Well, and let's take a look at this because we do have. Let's take a look at Canadian imports and what the range is on those. So if we take a look, this is 2018 to today, and again, this is our platform, Rogue Edge, $89 a month. Anybody that wants to get serious about the analysis, these are interactive, downloadable. This looks like a range of say 4 to 6. So we currently have loaded 6, which is kind of the top end. And
Right.
over 2022, 2018 to 2022, I have 4.6. So I'd probably toggle that back down to 5. You think that's a good number to roll with?
I think it really I would keep it's going to be the same number. I mean, I would keep 6 in September, but 4 in October.
Okay, 6,
Should
4.
be the same number though.
Okay, yeah. And let's see, for the LinkedIn user, unfortunately, we can't see your name. Would it be reasonable? Actually, I think I can do this. Would it be reasonable to think a price rise due to possible cash flow directed towards oil's futures trading that may work as safe haven current? Yeah, that actually is a plausible thesis. If you want to book a meeting with us, there is a link down below. We can talk about that thesis a little bit more,
But
but I
I would be cautious though because a lot of people want to compare right now to 2008, and there's too many differences to actually draw too much of a correlation to it. So I mean, back in 2008, we had no LNG. We had, I mean, there's there's too many things that's changed. I
yep.
think I think the environment's the same, but I just think there's some significant differences.
Okay. So let's keep marching forward. So demand, we've got kind of a plug number. Canadian. Let's take a look at Mexico imports or exports. I'm sorry. Let's take a look at that so that we can peg a good number there. Let's see. How do we want to look at this? Do we want to look at long-term history? Let's go ahead and Look at that.
No, I think you can't go too far back because we've actually increased our capacity going into Mexico.
Yeah. And it looks like kind of the range, the low end of the range is 5, top end is 7. I would probably reconcile a 5.75 as kind of a baseline with periods above and below.
Right.
So
I don't think it's so much going below where we're at there as far as Mexico. I think with a little bit of infrastructure, it could be higher.
I think given our growth and whatnot, I think a 6 seems reasonable to me. There are periods where we drop below that. So I think 6, maybe we go with 5.75. 5.75 minus
Sure.
5.75. That
Let's
puts
make it
us at
hard.
3.77. Now let's take a look at LNG. Let's take
So, folks, this is the part. LNG has been the biggest game changer in the natural gas market in the last 24 months. We've
Yep.
just had so much more. It's become a bigger dial. Now we're capacity constrained. Excuse me. What I mean by that is that there's only so much capacity we can push out.
It tops out around here, around the
Yes,
14.5, which we
right.
saw in April.
But it's getting to where a BCF a day makes a significant difference in the market. And so I think that it is important to watch that because it's become 12% of the market. And when it swings pretty hard. 2024, I think we've got about another 2 BCF, but 2025 is when we'll really start seeing some big capacity impact. Now, then we have to go back to the market, and I've got a whole another loan deal on that.
Well, and on Rogue Edge, we actually track what LNG export capacities are coming, and in the next 18 months, it's going to take us up significantly. So if production doesn't keep pace, but again, book a meeting, let us know. But I also want to say the reason that matters is because when you take a look at some of the basis and technicals, when you take a look at we track TTF, JKM, and Henry Hub, how they interrelate with each other. This is based on yesterday's close. And when you look at that spread and you are looking at $13 in the United States or in Japan, in Korea, and then you have over 10. The reason that matters is because you may have there are projections of European storage filling up. And if that happens, what happens to the LNG? Does this 12 BCF, does some of it come back to the United States? So I actually have seen some models come out lately that storage is not going to fill up in Europe. I don't know if I believe that yet, but I think it's safe to say I've heard the latest numbers for this week are over 13. So I'm going to conservatively say 12.5. What do you think of that number, Bill?
Let's do a quick experiment. Why don't you run LNG to 16?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So before the change, if we go with 12.5, we're at 3.7 TCF. And if we go to 16, we're at 3.5.
This is going to become our biggest dial on storage right here.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. That's for me, folks. So talking about European storage, just remember, I do not believe European storage has enough storage when they're full to make it through the whole winter for Western Europe.
They don't.
And
They
so,
will need a constant flow of
right,
so it's more a timing problem. They're going to
right.
get full. They don't have enough capacity to fill for the entire season. So it's really going to be a timing problem.
Which
Some of
could,
the LNG ships might float around for a little while until some space opens up.
yeah, but even then, that's if they are not on the return trip, your ability to pull it out of the U.S. is going to go down.
Right. Right. And folks,
So what it
feel free
means
to
is that
drop any comments in here
sure.
if you have comments or questions.
Also,
Um,
what I'm saying is that this shows that there could be some without the Russian pipeline gas, which they actually had some last year. A lot of people don't remember that. They weren't. It wasn't shut off till the middle of the winter. Uh, you could see this being one of the biggest places where we see the price increase in natural gas.
yep. And let's see, let's finish off the demand side of things. And this looks like we've averaged anywhere from 6.75 to almost 8. So I think this 7.1 is probably a good one. I'd
Yeah.
probably toggle this to 7.3.
Any way you look at it, it's usually about 8% of the net
So
or 10% of the demand.
these numbers are our projections, and again, if you have access to Rogue Edge, you can come up with your own projections of what indices and storage looks like. But if we kept production at the level that we're at, so we already covered rigs, if we are just flat, we're going to exit the season at 3.73. If these numbers are valid, there's going to be some nuances and some things that are going to be changed. I actually am projecting a quite a bit different. And the reason that this is important, folks, is because of this right here. Let's take a look at this. This is what a lot of people don't quite follow. They take a look at these injections. And right now we're looking at, let's see, this would be September 9th of last year, we injected 77 BCF a day, and I think the range for this week is 10 to 63. Now, the days don't completely link up to exactly a year apart, but roughly speaking, this September period right here through October, we need to be averaging 80 plus to keep pace with previous years on storage. And I don't think we're gonna keep that. If you take a look at this, this this doesn't keep us on pace for that.
And if you check with our friends at Prestige Weather, and they do talk about this, and we really do enjoy them, and they're really some good guys. But we were talking about how because of the setup in the tropics are right now, and with El Nino, we're going to see that our warm weather is going to last maybe as much as 30 days longer than we expected. They sort of backed off the full 30 days. I think we're talking about now toward the end of September when we start seeing cooling down. But in other words, winter's going to start a little bit later this year.
Right.
It's going to go for the same distance. It's going to be just as long. It's just going to start a little bit later this year, which could have some very impact on what storage looks like.
So a lot of this is, and we're rephrasing for direct knowledge. Go to Prestige Weather. There is a link down below, and these guys have really projected and kind of put everything in focus that September and October are probably going to be warmer than they have been in the past, and November is probably going to be warmer than it has been. So we're going to get a slow start to winter load. So some of the markets are going to fluctuate around that. And I am going to toggle through a quick winter forecast, which a lot of people a lot of bears are projecting. Okay.
So Prestige Weather, and let me make my disclaimer. I am not a professional weatherman, but because I live in Oklahoma, I think I am. So these guys have got it down, and they look at the models every day.
Yep.
And if you like talking about weather, they are the people to talk to.
Yep. So when you take a look at the winter, and again, recapping what Bill just said, winter is going to last just as long, but we're going to start late and end late. So what that means is March, April are probably going to look a little colder than normal, but November, December are probably going to be warmer than normal. But what that means is for this period right here, where we should be injecting 80 to 100, we're not going to get there. I don't think. But I'm going to show this is within the Discord channel that you get access to. This part has been made public. Direct Weather actually covered these forecasts, and this is the winter forecast that they have. There is a YouTube. I don't have it linked below, but there is a YouTube that talks about this. A lot of people are projecting with an El Nino that we're going to have a warmer than normal winter. Not really seeing that. We're probably going to have a slow start, but September and October are going to be stronger demand than people think. And I think price is going to respond as a result of that. So,
all right, Brian, we've covered nat gas pretty strong in storage. You want to move on to WTI?
Yep. If anybody has any questions on natural gas, leave a question. Please like, comment. We really appreciate you watching. All that stuff really helps. So if you have questions on storage or you want to walk through this for your understanding, book a meeting with us. There's links down below. This month is a little tricky. We have quite a bit of travel, but let's talk about crude. Let's talk about crude, and let's talk about, let me start by going into the supply and demand. So when we take a look at supply, we're at 12.8. 12.8. Let's take a look at this. Let me drag this over. We had a serious uptick, and I think it has to do with what you're talking about, production reporting. Right. I don't think because the rigs don't line up with when this comes in, but we had a huge uptick from 12.2 to this 12.8. I think because of the rigs. Let me actually scroll up here and get back to this chart right here. And all these charts you can get on Energy Rogue. If we take a look, in March we had 772 rigs, and in August we had 552, and oil rigs have been dropping. So despite oil being in the 80s, we're continually seeing drops in crude oil. So this production, I don't think we're going to see that projection cast forward. And so when we take a look at supply on the production side, I think that's going to shrink. Our imports are really strong right now. They're at 6.6. Let me see what we got over here.
Yeah, Vernon, I saw that Farmer's Almanac deal saying it's going to be really, really cold.
Yep. And Vernon, I love that. And actually, I traded natural gas for close to 20 years, and that was a very good resource that we used consistently on that. So I do think you're right. It is going to be a cold winter. I think Prestige Weather does have a point. It's probably going to have a slow start, but then a strong finish. So when we take a look at some of the supply, we had well, let's start off. We didn't start off with this. Let's see, here we go. So when we take a look at what crude has done, we projected to our members that when we were down to this 70s, we projected this drop into the 70s. We thought it was going to go a little bit lower and possibly even test 76.26, but then it recovered. We projected if it was going to break 81.29 that we were going to go up to 85.94. That's exactly what it did. Seems to be stalling out. There is a long-term resistance line right here. So I expect some kind of fumbling around this 85.94, possible drop to $84, maybe even 83. Somewhere around there. But what it does from there is going to matter from a technical perspective. But let's walk through some of the fundamentals here. So we have crude oil production sitting at 12.8 million barrels a day. My opinion, that's going down. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I think I'm going to say we probably may have it there a little bit longer than we think, but then it's going to go down. The difference with crude oil is that when you start doing those lateral wells and you start doing the laterals, it takes longer to complete. So we might see a 120-day break from the rigs.
So the reason, and again, all these charts are available on Rogue Edge. The reason that I say that is every month, much like natural gas, if we bring on 0 new wells, we are going to decline by over 600,000 barrels a day. So that means we need to bring on new production. Now we have rigs that have dropped off, which leaves our only inventory being drilled and uncompletes. But this curve right here is what's concerning me. We did flatten out, but we have dropped, and we are right at, this is monthly numbers. This is based on the EIA drilling productivity report. So anybody that really wants to get geeky, book a meeting. We'll show you how. But you can see we've started to decline just a tad on the monthly numbers. The 12.8 is the weekly numbers. So I expect this to kind of reconcile once we should get August numbers, I think, in the next 8 days or so. So we're starting to see signs of crude tipping. And so once it tips, I don't think it's going to take too long, and we're going to be back to this 2.2 level. And I think we're going to dip back in the 11 million barrel a day, probably 11.7 by the end of the year. I'm projecting, I'm probably too aggressive on that. If you're calling end of year production, what do you think, Bill?
Okay, so we're moving to end of year, and I'd say that at the end of the year, we could definitely be at 11. I don't think it's going to rise.
I don't think it's going to rise. Do you think we'll stay above 12?
I think we'll be above 12 probably through the end of September, maybe.
Okay, I could believe that. So I think this is going to float down again. We will see the numbers this week. The with the holiday, all the numbers are delayed a day. So we'll see what the numbers come out next week. But like Bill said, there are some reporting differences. And so when I take a look at crude oil, now refiner inputs are solid. OPEC has dropped some of theirs, and most of that is because of Saudi Arabia. We track all this stuff, everything that's happening in every OPEC organization. We also track Russia, but the data's delayed, and I don't know how much to really trust it. So, but they
Nobody
have.
lies about oil.
I mean, this says in March or April that they were declining on their production, and I've seen other reports that were not. These are coming from
So let's talk about
EIA.
it. You're using a term here, Brian, that we need to explain.
Supply.
Production versus supply.
Yes.
Supply is how much you put up for sale.
Yes.
Production is how much you produce. And
Right.
so the Saudis and OPEC has reduced their supply, not necessarily the production. Now everything's limited to how much storage they have, but then you've got that. And when you start talking about production, that's how much they can actually produce.
Right.
And I think that's based on maintenance on things.
Yep. Let's see. Iraq is pushing up. Iran has been pushing up. Now, a lot of this, I've heard some interesting theories here that Iran was posting to. Vernon, I love this. I love this. Yes. I'm originally from Texas, so I love that. That is a perfect statement. So, but Iran has been inching up on production, but a lot of I've heard that they never really truly dropped, but they were floating it into floating storage, and a lot of that inventory has been brought down lately, and now they're retroactively crediting it to Iran's supply. So when you talk about supply versus production, there are reports that Iran really didn't drop their supply or their production, but they dropped their supplies externally.
And I'm also
So,
sure that there probably wasn't some sales going on to China as well as in that thing. So
right.
we don't everything's not there. And Vernon, I'm telling you that I don't believe that statement in Texas, because I don't believe that nobody's perfect.
So, so on that, I think to close off, I'm going to come back around.
All
So
right.
I'm going to come back around. I'm going to state my opinion and direction on natural gas, and then you deliver yours, and then we'll do crude oil, and then we'll close off unless we have any more questions. So my projection on natural gas is that we are going to climb back up near term to 270 in the next couple
Okay.
weeks, and that we are going to extend to $3 sometime in October, possibly late September. But we are hitting a cooling period where the heating demand is going to be. I think we're going to be in a little bit of a malaise and probably bounce between this 250 to 270 and climb back up to 3. So I think
So,
3 by October, which was your original call.
mhm.
And I think this winter we will say goodbye to $2 and probably not see it again. I am in the minority. We're not financial advisors. Read all the disclaimers, so on and so forth. That's my 2 cents. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I'm sticking with my um, prediction that we're going to see $3 in October, but that's going to be on the November contract. I think there's a potential that we could see the October contract close out above $3, but it's going to be really close as far as on the timing. So,
Well, and I think it's really going to depend. These weekly storage numbers are going to be super important. If you're focused on gas, you need to watch those, because right now one of our members, Tom, if you're watching, thanks for posting the range, but the range that he saw this morning was 10 to 60. I think there's going to be a tighter range that we should see later today or tomorrow morning. So, but that is a huge
that's a huge range.
range.
Yeah.
And these are people that are looking at all kinds of thousands and tens of thousands of
I would
data
say it would
points.
be 10 BCF on either side of the 32 we had.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
so
and
tell me
last,
about crude oil. Where are you going with that?
all right, so my projection is up from here on natural gas. On crude oil, let's take a look at that. I think we will hit I think we'll be in the 90s by November. I want to say 100, but I think we're going to stall out in the mid 90s. Near term, I would expect some potential drawdown or draw back to maybe this level down here. This 84 level seems important to me. I'm going to say by November, we're going to be in the 90s. By year end, probably mid 90s.
I think I could agree with that. And to be honest with you, I think what you're doing is looking at the technical. What I'm looking at is that the next driving season is going to be Thanksgiving.
Right.
So I think we're going to see some strength going into that driving season. Just remember, once unleaded gets above $4 on an average across the nation, we start seeing some behavior change, and that
Right.
could give us a little bit more of a bearish outlook on that. So I think we're going to be we'll be solid in the 80s for October, and I think we'll be solid. I think we can see 90 in November. I just can't see us crossing that $100 mark, which is exactly opposite of where I was last year. But I just don't see us crossing that $100 mark.
Well, and that's some of the headwinds. And again, this is on Rogue Edge, but we actually track where gasoline is around the country. And in Denver, it's approaching $4. Chicago above $4. Houston and down south in Oklahoma is not tracked by EIA. So, Bill, you're going to have to get on them for that.
There
But
we go.
most of the country is down below. San Francisco, Los Angeles, of course, and Seattle. All those are way up, and a lot of that is because of tax load. So, Mark, thank you for your, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for saying a comment. It really helps. And let's see what you said here. The
Yeah,
higher gas prices.
I live
Yeah,
that. I live that, Mark. My wife's got a Lexus and I got a Jeep, and so when I go to fill up her car, being a nice guy is, it costs me a little bit more.
there's a nice correlation to number two, diesel. I mean, pretty much diesel and the refined, reformulated. What is it? The ultra. What is the
Ultra low
premium
sulfur
grade?
diesel.
Yeah, yeah, ultra low sulfur diesel. But that kind of tracks where your premium gasoline is going to cost. So,
Right.
Mark, you're 100% right there. But
And we won't
you're,
get into the ethanol comments.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're already there. But back to this. I do think Bill and I are on the right track. We are at a kind of resistance point. If we break through this, I think we might be in the 90s pretty shortly. But I think between now and the end of the year is going to be an 80 to 90 story. And I also heard this. This was I can't get my chart. If you look from 2010 to 2014, we kind of had a range of 60 to 100 with times above and below that. And then after that period, when we had the huge bankruptcy period in 2016, 2015, 16 to 2018, we had a range of kind of 30 to 60. And the thesis was we're back to the range that we were from 2010 to 2013. I completely believe that 60 to 100, and there's some demand that comes off around that 100 because gasoline at the pump goes above $4. But what do you think of that, Bill?
So I'm just going to claim my initials on that. I think 2020. I think 2020 changed a lot of things that we weren't ready for things to change, and so it's really hard to go back and do those correlations. Similar to what I was talking about 2008. There's some very basic things that have changed that will keep that. I think the bottom line is about $70, 70, $75. Large oil companies can make money. So that's where they almost have to be. And anything you get above that is people trying to play with the market like the Saudis and internet. And realize it's what I told people before is that I always ask them, where does Exxon fall in the top 10 oil companies in the world? And the point is they don't. They're not even in the top 10. Right. Everything in the top 10 are state-owned oil companies. So you have to take the geopolitical into effect. So I think it's going to be an interesting year. I think there'll be some pullbacks, but I think it'll be pullbacks based on demand, not pullbacks based on supply.
Right, right. And listen, thank you for watching. Really appreciate that. We're going to continue to try and do this. Next Wednesday, we won't be able to, but this is going to be kind of our time slot that we're going to focus on. So we're going to focus on Wednesdays at noon. Like I said, next week is not going to be possible, but we will be back each Wednesday, and we will try and post this a day early so that people can get prepared and get something to eat because it's lunchtime for a lot of folks in America.
Enjoyed it.
Hey, listen, thanks so much. Really appreciate y'all watching, and I hope that y'all have a great rest of the week. And as always, we greatly appreciate you. Please like, comment, share, all that stuff really, really helps. Any closing thoughts, Bill?
I don't have any closing thoughts other than this is going to be a very dynamic couple months. So if you're pushing to the edge on one side or the other, making a total commitment, just be careful. Just look at everything. It's worth the $89 a month just to find out and look at the data, and then contact us.
Yeah. All our members have a direct line to us. We get to them, and we actually have our own Discord channel. So I was on this. We have our own Discord channel where we talk about particular moves in the market and what might be happening. So we try and do that. We also put out a weekly report at the beginning of the week that kind of sets the table for what might be happening. So if you're curious about it, reach out to us down below. And if you're serious about understanding supply, demand, imports, exports, storage, and you want to understand why the market may be moving that way, just reach out to us and let us know. So Mark, Vernon, thanks so much. Really appreciate y'all. And we are going to go ahead and close it off because we don't want to keep everybody on here too long. So, so thanks so much for joining, and we will see you 2 weeks from today.
All right, let's roll the logo.
Okay, bye.